It's been about 3 years since Canon and Sony released the G7X Mark II and the RX100 Mark V point-and-shoot cameras. And with the point-and-shoot market not being what it once was, there's not many options out there to choose from. So let's see if these two cameras are still worth it in 2019. Intro. What's going on, everybody? Tem the Everything Man here. We are at a time in 2019 that if you want to buy a pocket-friendly point-and-shoot camera, you might have to settle for one that's a few years old and that might not have as many bells and whistles as, let's say, a GoPro or a DJI Osmo Pocket. But what you do typically get in these high-end point-and-shoots is better low light, a bigger image sensor, and overall just a much closer to professional look, especially in video. So is it still worth it to buy an almost 3-year-old point-and-shoot that costs close to double the price of a GoPro or Osmo Pocket? In some ways, yes, and in some ways, probably not. I mean, it really depends on your camera preferences. What's most important to you? Is it image quality? Is it autofocus? Is it image stabilization? Photo quality? Resolution options? Zoom capabilities? Everyone's different. Now, I won't be doing any editing to the video or stills coming out of both of these cameras. For photos, I'll have them both set to full auto just to make it fair, and for videos, they'll both be set on aperture priority. And also, the G7X Mark II doesn't shoot 4K like the Sony does, so for this video, just to keep it even, we're gonna be shooting in 1080p at 24 frames per second. And lastly, before we start these comparisons, let's just go over some key features. I'm not gonna do any spec speaking here, we're just gonna go over some of the main selling points of both of these guys so you guys can get an idea of what you're working with if you don't know anything about both of these. Both cameras have a 20 megapixel 1-inch sensor. Both cameras have an f-stop of 1.8 to f11. Both have an ND filter built in, which is phenomenal. Both have image stabilization, both have flip-up screens, but only the Canon's is touchscreen. The Sony shoots 4K up to 30p in 5-minute increments only, and the Canon only shoots 1080p up to 60 frames per second. And both of them have good autofocus too. I'm not gonna go over the high frame rate options in this or shoot any type of slow-mo footage because it's not even a comparison. The Sony shoots up to 960 freaking frames per second, and the 960 and the 480, the image quality isn't that great, it's really grainy, but you can get pretty decent footage at 240 and 120 frames per second in 1080p. Whereas the highest frame rate the Canon shoots is 60 frames per second, so that test is right out the freaking window, huh? All right, first up is photos, and then we'll get into the video / vlogging test where you could see certain comparisons like autofocus, image quality, image stabilization, and we're also going to be using the onboard mics on both cameras since neither one has an external microphone jack. Also, both cameras have a neutral color setting, so that's what I set them both on, just to not make it too contrasty or too saturated, but again, remember, we're not going to edit either one of these. Okay, photos.
This place that everyone got no patience, and everything's in your face, killing your imagination, not paying attention. So full of aggression, so full of aggression, not paying attention. You got me losing connection. I'm in a temporary home, so full of aggression, not paying attention. You got me losing connection. I'm in a temporary home.
Alright, that was the photos, and now let's switch over to video. Alright, so first up is the Sony RX100 Mark V. We got on a little vlogging grip, little handheld mini tripod here. The Sony RX100 does have optical image stabilization, but it also has electronic image stabilization, which is called Steady Shot. Right now I have it set to Intelligent Active Steady Shot, hoping that it gets the best stabilization we can get. Again, we're on aperture priority mode and we're on the neutral color profile. And we're at 4K 24 frames per second. Now, one of the things right off the bat that I do not like about the Sony compared to the Canon is the LCD. The Sony LCD dims itself so much when you start filming. It's just really not good for viewing in sunny conditions. Whereas the Canon, I could pretty much see whatever I want to see right on the LCD screen. It looks nice and clear, vivid, bright. You get a good idea of what you're trying to shoot at all times. The Sony's is just too dim. Now luckily for us, we don't have a lot of wind going on right now. It's pretty much breezeless. The leaves aren't moving. The bushes are still as hell. I mean, that's like super still. Now we are at f1.8 here, and you can get a blurry background, especially when you get close to the subject and you have some distance in the background. The foreground is nice and close to the lens. You do get a nice blurry background. You can see right here in these trees and over here. And then once you pull it back a little bit and you get a nice wide field of view, everything kind of comes together a little bit. But that's what you're going to get with a small 1-inch sensor. Now we're losing light pretty quick here, so we're not going to spend too long on each camera. I want it to be kind of equal. I don't want it to be a lot lower light out when I switch over to the Canon and then the Sony looks better. We want to keep this even Stevens over here. Now, like I said, in 4K, you can only shoot in 5-minute increments on the Sony. It overheats, like it's not going to burn up or anything on you, but it prevents itself from overheating by stopping the recording. And it's kind of a bummer because sometimes you don't even realize that it stops recording when you're in 4K and you're talking and then you don't know until you play back the footage and then you're like, crap. I mean, it's actually happened to me. So if you're just a straight up 4K guy, you know, this might not be the best option for you. But by the looks of things and by the trend that's going on with Sony so far early in 2019, it seems that if you wait a little bit, we're not going to have to deal with that 4K record time limit much longer. This year we got the Sony a6400, which completely removed the 30-minute record time limit, and basically you could just film until the battery runs out. And now just recently, a few days ago, Sony announced the RX100 V, which is a tiny little square GoPro looking type camera that has a flip up screen, which I am going to get my hands on as soon as humanly possible. And the original Sony RX100 went from not having 4K at all to now on the Mark II having 4K and actually not having a record time limit either. I thought they were definitely going to set that at 5 minutes or something like that, but it just goes until the battery runs out. So, and at the beginning of the year, I was kind of thinking that Sony wouldn't be releasing a successor to the RX100 Mark VI, which is the latest point-and-shoot camera that Sony has out. And I thought they were going to kind of wait until 2020 to release the Mark VII. But now, kind of by the looks of it, it seems that we might be getting an RX100 Mark VII, and hopefully they include some kind of microphone jack. Hopefully there is no 4K record time limit, and hopefully we get a built-in ND filter back like we have right now, which is turned on, and it will also be turned on in the Canon G7X Mark II once we switch over to that. All right, a lot of information being spewed out of my lips here, so you get the gist of it. We'll do a quick walking test. Now we're gonna go over some branches, so there's gonna be shade, so don't really worry about the lighting switching too much right now. Just kind of focus on the image stabilization, and I'll try to do a speed walk down this little trail right here. Alright, so that is it for the RX100 Mark V. Canon, you're up. Alright, so here is the Canon G7X Mark II, and right off the bat, that LCD. It's just so much more nicer and viewable and just pleasant to look at when you're trying to film yourself and vlog yourself or film other things. I was doing the photo test before, and I was kind of having a hard time with the Sony, and once I switched over to the Canon, it was super easy. Plus, with the Canon, you do have touch to focus. In the Sony, you have no touch capabilities whatsoever. I was trying to focus in and lock in on certain points when I was taking photos, and it was super easy with the Canon, and when it came to the Sony, it was kind of tough. Now, if photos isn't your thing, then this might not be a big, huge deal for you. If you're just picking up one of these cameras for vlogging, then carry on and keep figuring out which image quality and autofocus and image stabilization you like better. Now, the Sony definitely did look a little blurrier, which is weird. Now that looks blown out back there. Yeah, when I was this close with the Sony, it definitely looked a little blurrier, and we are at the widest aperture. Let's do a quick stabilization test. We'll do the same walking test that we did before. I mean, I'm speed walking right now. Like I usually say in all my videos, when I speed walk, I would never walk this fast in real life unless I had to poop, unless I had a turtle head poking through, and this sun is really harsh, so I apologize right now about the glare. It's blasting on me. Let's get some shade. This auto ISO is probably going insane right now. See, we're hiding behind a tree. If we pop out, woo! Let's do like Two-Face. I want to make the world a better place. I want to kill your mother. Was that stupid? What the hell am I saying right now? Let's get back to the speed walk. Now we're gonna have some back glare behind us, so I don't mind that either. Just really bad lighting conditions. But on the previous test that I did with the G7X II, I was very impressed with the image stabilization. I mean, if you're doing just a slow walk like this here, if you're just walking around normal pace, that's a pretty stable video there, except for when I almost fell just now. I gotta get out of this sun. It's like blasting me right now. Let's just stay right here and we'll chit chat a little bit. Now it's a little too dark. Jeez, can we get some happy medium? How does that look? The Canon's transitions are definitely smoother. So if you're focusing on something, let's see if we could do it right now. I'll stand over here. Let's get like the cheek. And that tree is dark, so you're not gonna see it. Go to the tree to the left of me. And now I'm blurry. Dude, I thought I just had a tick on me. This freaking branch right here almost just got nunchucked. It don't even know. All right, so we just talked about future possibility of maybe or maybe not an RX100 7 coming out this year. So let's talk Canon now. G7X Mark III, will we see it this year? I'm not quite sure, but I think we might. I think we're gonna see some kind of point and shoot release from Canon this year. Hopefully it's on the higher end, not like the SX740. Wasn't impressed with the SX740. It just sits in the house and collects dust. But for a G7X Mark III, I think a lot of people are gonna get their hopes up and be let down. I can't see Canon handicapping 4K with the huge crop and dual pixel autofocus on cameras like the EOS RP and the M50, and then giving us really great 4K on a G7X Mark III point and shoot camera. I think if we do get 4K, it's gonna have a huge crop and it ain't gonna have no dual pixel autofocus. It might be the exact same thing that we have now, just a crippled 4K option added on top of it. So in that case, is it really worth it? I think the G7X Mark II will be a good camera, especially if you don't mind 1080p for the next few years. And in case you're wondering, battery life, it's definitely better on the G7X Mark II than the RX100 Mark V. We still have full bars on the G7X, and we were down to like 1 bar or a bar and a half on the RX100. So they both have tiny little batteries, but surprisingly enough, the G7X Mark II handles battery life pretty well, and you should be fine with 2, maybe 3 batteries to last you throughout the day. And they're so small and lightweight, I mean, you could fit all 3 in your pocket and not lose an inch. All right, so that's that. We're done with the video comparison. We checked out everything. We checked out the image stabilization. You've been staring at the autofocus this whole time. You would have known if it was hunting or not. And the audio quality. So, back to you, Tim.
Okay, so you guys be the judge. Which camera intrigued you more? As for the pricing, right now on B&H, the Canon G7X Mark II goes for $649, whereas the Sony RX100 Mark V actually has an updated version. It's not the Mark VI, it's the 5A or VA, and that goes for $898 brand new on B&H.com. But honestly, I've seen them both for a lot cheaper on other websites. Just shoot a Google and you'll be able to find the best price for you. If you own one or both of these cameras, or plan on buying one or both of these cameras, join the conversation below. Let me know your thoughts. Make sure you follow me right here, look down, right here on Instagram at @the_everythingman. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up for me. If you are not yet subscribed, please do so. I'd appreciate it highly. Until next time, this is your boy.
This is your man, Tam the Everything Man, signing out. Thank you for watching. Salute.
Raise your hands up. Raise them out.